My dad had a secret family. He bribed me to stay quiet. I showed Mom the proof, but what he whispered to her. I woke up that morning in our quiet suburban home in Evanston, just outside Chicago, feeling oddly restless. It was my day off from my part-time job at the local coffee shop, and I decided to do something nice for my dad, John. He'd been grumpy the night before, complaining that nobody ever packed him lunch for work, so I thought I'd surprise him. I spent the morning in the kitchen, making his favorite roast beef sandwich with extra mustard, just the way he liked it. I even threw in some homemade cookies, thinking it'd put a smile on his face. I pictured him opening the lunch bag at his desk, maybe even texting me a quick, "Thanks, kiddo." It felt good to do something for him. I drove to his office downtown, a sleek high-rise in the Loop, the lunch bag warm in my hands. The city buzzed around me, horns blaring, people rushing past. I was excited, my heart light with the thought of catching him off guard with this small act of kindness. But as I stepped into the lobby, the polished marble floors reflecting my nervous smile, something felt off. The receptionist told me Dad was in a meeting, so I settled into a leather chair by the elevators, clutching the lunch bag, scanning the crowd for his familiar face. That's when I saw them. The glass doors to the office suite swung open, and out walked a woman, maybe in her late 30s, with dark hair pulled into a neat bun. She was laughing, her hand resting casually on the arm of a man who looked exactly like my dad. My stomach twisted as I leaned forward, squinting. It was him, John, in his usual navy suit, his graying hair catching the light. Behind them trailed two kids, a little girl, no older than 3, clutching a stuffed bunny, and a teenage boy in a wheelchair, his head tilted slightly, a soft smile on his face. The girl tugged at Dad's sleeve and giggled. "Daddy, carry me." My breath caught in my throat. "Daddy?" I ducked behind a potted plant, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The lunch bag slipped from my hands, hitting the floor with a soft thud. I watched, frozen, as Dad scooped the little girl into his arms, her tiny hands wrapping around his neck. The woman leaned in, and he kissed her, not a quick peck, but a lingering, intimate kiss that made my chest ache. They walked out to the parking lot, the boy's wheelchair rolling smoothly beside them. I fumbled for my keys, my hands shaking, and followed at a distance, my mind racing. Who were these people? Why was that child calling my dad Daddy? In the parking lot, I crouched behind a car, watching as Dad buckled the girl into a booster seat in a silver SUV. The woman slid into the driver's seat, and Dad leaned through the window, kissing her again, then ruffled the boy's hair. They were a family, happy, carefree, like something out of a sitcom. My vision blurred as tears stung my eyes. This wasn't right. My dad, the man who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd cheered at my high school soccer games, was standing there with another family, a family I'd never seen before. I drove home, the lunch bag forgotten on the lobby floor, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My mind spun with questions. How long had this been going on? Did Mom know? Was this why Dad was always working late or taking business trips to places like St. Louis or Milwaukee? I pulled into our driveway, the familiar sight of our red brick house doing nothing to calm the storm inside me. I sat in the car, staring at the front door, replaying the image of that little girl calling him Daddy. My dad had a secret, and it was tearing my world apart. I climbed the stairs to my room, locked the door, and collapsed onto my bed. My phone buzzed a text from Dad. "Hey kiddo, running late tonight, don't wait up." I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I wanted to type, "Who are they?" I wanted to scream it, but instead I tossed the phone aside, my chest heavy with betrayal. I didn't know what to do next, but one thing was clear. I couldn't unsee what I'd seen. My dad wasn't who I thought he was, and I wasn't sure I could keep this secret. I sat in the living room of our Evanston home, the clock ticking loudly on the wall, each second stretching into eternity. My hands were clammy, my stomach knotted as I waited for Dad to walk through the door. The image of him with that woman and those kids burned in my mind, the little girl's giggle, the way he kissed her forehead, the boy in the wheelchair smiling up at him. It felt like a betrayal carved into my chest. I'd spent the afternoon pacing, trying to piece together how long this had been going on, how I'd missed the signs, the late nights at work, the weekend trips to conferences in Milwaukee. Had it all been a lie? When the front door creaked open, my heart lurched. Dad stepped in, his briefcase in one hand, his tie loosened. "Hey, Sarah," he said, flashing his usual warm smile. "How's my favorite girl?" His voice was so normal, so infuriatingly casual, it made my skin crawl. I stood up, my legs shaky, and crossed my arms. "Who are they, Dad?" My voice came out sharper than I meant, slicing through the air. His smile vanished, his eyes widened like a deer caught in headlights. "What are you talking about?" he asked, setting his briefcase down slowly, but I saw the panic flicker in his face. I wasn't backing down. "The woman and the kids at your office today. The little girl called you Daddy. I saw you kiss her mom. Who are they?" My words trembled, but I held his gaze, daring him to lie. Dad froze, his mouth opening and closing like he was searching for an excuse. "Sarah, it's not what you think," he finally said, his voice low, almost pleading. I laughed, a bitter sound that surprised even me. "Not what I think? Then explain it. Explain why a kid I've never seen is calling you Daddy while you're hugging some woman who's not Mom." My voice cracked, and I hated how vulnerable it made me feel. He sighed, running a hand through his graying hair, and sank onto the couch. "It's complicated, Sarah. You wouldn't understand." That made my blood boil. "Don't patronize me. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm 18, and I deserve the truth." I stepped closer, my hands clenched into fists. "How long have you been lying to us?" He looked away, staring at the floor like it held the answers. "It's not about lying," he started, but I cut him off. "Stop it. I saw you. I saw the way you looked at them, like they were your family. Are they? Do you have another family?" My voice rose, echoing in the quiet house. I could feel tears prickling, but I refused to let them fall. Not yet. Dad's shoulder shoulders slumped, and he buried his face in his hands. "Yes," he whispered, so softly I almost didn't hear it. "Yes, I have another family." The words hit like a punch to the gut. I staggered back, my breath catching. "Her name's Emily," he continued, his voice heavy. "We've been together for 5 years. The kids, Lily's 3 and Ethan's 20, but he's got cerebral palsy. I didn't mean for it to happen, Sarah. It just did." I stared at him, my mind reeling. 5 years. 5 years of lies, of him splitting his life between us and them. "How could you do this?" I asked, my voice breaking. "To Mom? To me? You've been living a double life and you think it just happened is an excuse?" My chest heaved, anger and hurt colliding inside me. I wanted to scream, to throw something, but I just stood there, shaking. He looked up, his eyes red. "I love you and your mom. I never wanted to hurt you. But Emily, she needed me. Ethan needed me. I couldn't walk away." I shook my head, disgusted. "Needed you? What about us? What about Mom? Who thinks you're the perfect husband? You're a liar, Dad." He stood, reaching for me, but I stepped back. "Sarah, please, don't tell your mom. It'll destroy her. It'll tear this family apart." His voice cracked, desperate. "I'll do anything. I'll pay for that car you wanted, the new phone, whatever you need. Just keep this between us." I froze, his words sinking in. He was trying to bribe me, my own father, begging me to cover up his betrayal. "You think I'd take your money to lie for you?" I spat, my voice thick with disgust. "You don't get to buy my silence. Mom deserves to know who you really are." He sank back onto the couch, defeated, but I didn't feel sorry for him. All I could think about was Mom, how her face lit up when he came home, how she trusted him completely. I turned and walked to my room, slamming the door behind me. My heart pounded as I leaned against it, tears finally spilling over. I didn't know what came next, but I knew one thing. I couldn't let him keep this secret, not from her. I lay on my bed in our Evanston home, staring at the ceiling, the glow from the streetlights slipping through my blinds. My room, usually a safe haven with its posters of soccer stars and cluttered desk, felt suffocating. Dad's words echoed in my head. "Don't tell your mom. It'll destroy her." I squeezed my eyes shut, but all I could see was that little girl calling him Daddy, her tiny hands wrapped around his neck. My chest ached, torn between anger and a sickening sense of betrayal. How could I keep this from Mom? But how could I tell her and watch her world collapse? Mom, Susan, was the heart of our family. Every memory I had of her was tied to warmth, her laugh when we baked cookies together, the way she'd hum old jazz tunes while doing dishes, how she'd beam when Dad walked through the door. They'd been married for 20 years, and I'd grown up believing their love was unshakable. I remembered her at my high school graduation, clutching Dad's arm, her eyes shining with pride. She trusted him completely, never questioning his late nights or weekend trips. If I told her about Emily and those kids, that trust would shatter. I'd be the one to break her heart. I rolled over, grabbing my phone, scrolling through old family photos. There we were at Lake Michigan last summer, Mom's head resting on Dad's shoulder, me making a goofy face. We looked happy, whole. Could I really take that away from her? Part of me wanted to pretend I'd never gone to his office, never seen that other family. If I stayed silent, Mom could keep her perfect picture of our life. She'd keep smiling, keep loving Dad, keep believing in the family we'd built. But every time I imagined that, my stomach twisted. Keeping this secret meant lying to her face, day after day, knowing Dad was splitting his life between us and them. I thought about what it would do to me, carrying this alone. Could I sit across from Mom at dinner, watching her laugh at Dad's dumb jokes, knowing he was betraying her? Could I hug her, knowing I was hiding the truth? The thought made my skin crawl. I'd feel like a traitor, just as bad as him. And what if she found out later, on her own? What if she realized I'd known and said nothing? The betrayal would cut even deeper. She'd lose trust in both of us. I sat up, my heart pounding. Mom deserved better. She deserved the truth, no matter how much it hurt. I thought about all the times she'd been there for me, staying up late to help with homework, cheering at my soccer games, wiping my tears after a bad day. She'd always been honest with me, even when it was hard. I owed her the same. But the idea of sitting her down, watching her face crumple as I showed her the proof, made my throat tighten. I could already picture her eyes, wide with shock, then filling with tears. It felt like I'd be the one hurting her, not Dad. I paced my room, my bare feet cold against the hardwood floor. I stopped at my mirror, staring at my reflection. My eyes were red, my hair a mess from running my hands through it. What kind of person am I if I don't tell her? I whispered to myself. That question hit harder than anything else. If I kept quiet, I'd be complicit in Dad's lies. I'd be letting him get away with it, letting him keep living this double life while Mom stayed in the dark. That wasn't fair to her. It wasn't fair to me. By the time the clock hit midnight, I'd made up my mind. I couldn't protect Dad, not at the cost of Mom's trust. I'd tell her tomorrow, no matter how much it scared me. I'd show her the truth and face whatever came next with her. My heart felt heavy, but there was a strange relief in the decision. I wasn't going to carry this alone anymore. Mom and I would face it together, even if it broke us both. I barely slept that night, my mind trapped in a loop of Dad's confession and Mom's trusting smile. By 2 a.m., I was sitting on the edge of my bed in our Evanston home, the house silent except for the faint hum of the fridge downstairs. I couldn't just tell Mom without proof. Dad might try to twist the story, make me look like I'd misunderstood. I needed something solid, something he couldn't deny. His phone was the key. I'd seen him punch in his passcode 100 times. 0312, Mom's birthday. I crept downstairs, my bare feet silent on the hardwood, and found his phone charging on the kitchen counter. My hands trembled as I unlocked it, the screen casting a cold glow across my face. I opened his messages first, scrolling through names I recognized, work colleagues, old friends, until I saw Emily. My heart thudded as I tapped the thread. The texts were a punch to the gut. "Miss you, babe. Can't wait to see you and the kids tomorrow." Another from her. "Lily drew you a picture today. She keeps asking for daddy. I felt sick, my throat tightening. There were dozens of messages, stretching back years, filled with love and plans, dinners, weekends, even a trip to Disney World in Orlando. I switched to his photos, and that's when the real pain hit. Mixed in with pictures of me and mom, our trip to Lake Michigan, my graduation were snapshots of them. Dad with Emily, her arm around his waist, both smiling in front of Cinderella's castle. Lily, the little girl, wore pink Mickey Mouse ears, perched on Dad's shoulders. Ethan, the boy in the wheelchair, grinned as Dad pushed him through the park. I checked the dates. Last June, when Dad told us he was at a conference in St. Louis, he'd lied. He'd taken them to Disney World, the place I'd begged to visit since I was a kid. My eyes burned as I scrolled. There they were on the teacup ride, laughing. Another photo showed Lily holding a giant stuffed Simba, Dad kissing her cheek. I remembered all the times I'd asked him to take us to Disney, how he'd said we couldn't afford it, that his job was too demanding. I'd believed him, accepted it, while he was splashing out thousands on them. My tears fell onto the screen, blurring the image of Dad's other family living the life I'd dreamed of. I wiped my face, anger surging through me. He'd chosen them over us. I kept digging, finding more proof. A text from Emily about Ethan's doctor's appointment in Chicago, Dad replying he'd cover the cost $2,000 for some new therapy equipment. That stung worse than the photos. We weren't struggling, but Mom was always careful with money, clipping coupons, skipping vacations to save up. Yet Dad was funneling cash to this other life. I screenshotted everything, texts, photos, even a hotel receipt from Orlando, saving them to my phone. I needed Mom to see the truth, undeniable and raw. As I scrolled, I found a video. My finger hovered, then pressed play. It was Lily's third birthday, at a park somewhere, balloons tied to a picnic table. Dad was there, singing happy birthday as Emily lit the candles. Lily clapped, her tiny voice squealing, "Daddy, blow it out!" My chest tightened so much I could barely breathe. He looked so happy, so at ease, like he belonged there. Did he ever think of us? Did he feel even a flicker of guilt while he played the perfect dad to her? I locked his phone and set it back on the counter, my hands shaking. Back in my room, I sat on the floor, staring at the screenshots on my phone. Each one was a knife to the heart, proof of a life Dad had hidden from us. I wanted to confront him again, to scream, to demand why we weren't enough. But this wasn't about him anymore. It was about Mom, about giving her the truth she deserved. I knew telling her would break her, but keeping this secret would break me. I clutched my phone, the evidence burning a hole in my pocket, and steeled myself for what came next. The morning sun filtered through the kitchen curtains in our Evanston home, casting soft shadows on the table. I sat there, my phone heavy with screenshots, waiting for Mom to come downstairs. My heart raced, each creak of the floorboards making me flinch. I'd barely slept, the images of Dad with Emily and those kids haunting me. When Mom finally appeared, her hair tied back, humming softly as she poured coffee, I felt a pang of guilt. She looked so content, so unaware. How could I shatter that? "Mom, we need to talk," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She turned, her smile fading as she saw my face. "Sarah, what's wrong?" She set her mug down, her eyes searching mine. I took a deep breath, my hands trembling. "It's about Dad. I found something out, something bad." Her brow furrowed, and she sat across from me, her hands clasped tightly. "What is it, honey?" I slid my phone toward her, the screenshots already open. "I went to Dad's office yesterday to bring him lunch. I saw him with a woman and 2 kids. One called him Daddy. These are from his phone." My voice cracked as she picked up the phone, her fingers hesitating before swiping. Her face paled as she saw the texts, the photos of Dad with Emily, Lily on his shoulders, Ethan smiling. This is from Disney World," she whispered, her voice breaking. "He said he was in St. Louis for work." She scrolled silently, tears welling in her eyes. I reached for her hand, but she pulled away, staring at a photo of Dad kissing Lily's cheek. "How long, Sarah?" she asked, her voice hollow. 5 years, I said softly. He admitted it last night. "Her name's Emily. The kids are Lily and Ethan." Mom's breath hitched and she covered her mouth, tears spilling over. I felt like I was drowning in her pain. "I'm so sorry, Mom," I said, my own tears falling. "I didn't know how to tell you, but you deserve to know." She nodded, wiping her face, but her eyes were distant, like she was replaying every moment of their marriage. Then something shifted. Her jaw tightened and she looked at me with a fierce resolve. "We're confronting him together," she said, her voice steady despite the tears. "And we're meeting this woman. He doesn't get to hide anymore." I nodded, relief mixing with dread. "What do we do?" I asked. She stood, pacing the kitchen. "We tell him to set up a meeting with her. Today. He needs to face us both." Her strength surprised me, but it gave me courage. We agreed to wait for Dad to come home that evening, to show him the screenshots and demand he arrange a meeting with Emily. Mom's hands shook as she poured more coffee, but her eyes burned with determination. "He's not getting away with this, Sarah," she said. "We'll face it together." The drive to Lincoln Park in Chicago felt endless, the city's skyline blurring past as Mom gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white. I sat in the passenger seat, my phone clutched in my lap, the screenshots a heavy reminder of why we were here. Dad had texted Emily to meet him at the park's north end, near the zoo, and we'd insisted on coming along. Mom's face was set, her eyes hard with resolve, but I could see her hands trembling. My stomach churned, dreading the moment we'd face this other family. We parked near a cluster of oak trees, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows. Dad was already there, standing by a picnic table, holding Lily's hand as she skipped around him. Emily pushed Ethan's wheelchair, her face relaxed, unaware of the storm about to hit. Mom and I got out, our footsteps crunching on the gravel path. Dad saw us, his shoulders stiffening, and Emily's smile faltered as we approached. "John, who are they?" she asked, her voice curious but edged with unease. Mom didn't hesitate. "I'm Susan, John's wife. This is our daughter, Sarah." Her words were steady, cutting through the air like a blade. Emily's eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth. Wife? She whispered, turning to Dad, who stared at the ground, his face pale. John, is this true? He nodded, unable to meet her gaze. Lily tugged at his sleeve, oblivious, giggling about a squirrel nearby. I watched Emily's face shift from shock to pain, her eyes glistening but holding back tears. 5 years, John? She asked, her voice breaking. You never told me you were married. Mom held up my phone, showing the screenshots, Disney World photos, texts, proof of his double life. He's been lying to all of us, Mom said, her voice firm but shaking. Emily stared at the images, her breath hitching as she saw Lily on Dad's shoulders. Then Emily said something that stunned us. If you want to stay with us, John, I'll take you, she said, her voice calm but resolute. I love you. The kids need you. Mom and I froze, disbelief washing over me. How could she want him after this? Emily looked at us, her eyes softening. I suspected something wasn't right, but I didn't want to believe it. I'm sorry, Susan. I didn't know. Her words were sincere, but they didn't ease the ache in my chest. Mom's jaw tightened, her eyes blazing. I'm done, John. I'm filing for divorce. Her voice was final, leaving no room for argument. She turned to me, her hand finding mine, and we walked back to the car, leaving Dad standing there with Emily and the kids. I glanced back, seeing Lily wave at him, unaware of the chaos. My heart broke for her, for Mom, for all of us caught in his lies. We drove back to our Evanston home in silence, the weight of the day pressing down on us. Mom's hands gripped the steering wheel, her eyes fixed on the road, but I could see the pain etched in her face. I stared out the window, the Chicago skyline fading into dusk, my heart heavy with anger and loss. Dad's double life had unraveled everything: our family, our trust, the life we'd known. That night, Mom sat me down and said she'd file for divorce. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. I nodded, knowing it was the only way forward. The weeks that followed were a blur. Dad moved out, and I only saw him in court, his face tired and distant. Mom threw herself into work, her smile gone, replaced by a quiet strength. I felt torn, furious at Dad for betraying us, heartbroken for Mom, and guilty for the little girl Lily, who didn't understand why her daddy was gone. I kept replaying the park, Emily's calm acceptance, the way Dad just stood there. How could he build 2 families and think it wouldn't collapse? I lay awake at night wondering if I'd done the right thing. Telling Mom had shattered her world, but keeping the secret would have shattered mine. Our home felt emptier, but there was a strange clarity in the truth. We were broken, but we'd rebuild without his lies.